So we're a few weeks into 2024, and I'm sure a lot of people on the internet don't care about some random dude's opinion on their favorite albums of 2023, but I hope to one day have grandkids who will maybe ask me, what were you listening to in 2023? So for their sake, and only their sake, I've narrowed down my favorite 15 albums of last year. But before counting down those, I thought I'd shout out a few albums that didn't quite make the list, but still were cool listens. Oliver Tree dropped a new LP. I really love the song Essence. Caliuch, I don't know I can never say that name with confidence. Caliuchis dropped a new album. I really love the song Endlessly. Paramore also dropped This Is Why, which was also a great album. I also really like the remix album that they did. Wet has a cover of C'est Comme Ça. Can't ever come say that. It's really good. It's great. It's fun. Listen if you want. New on my radar was a band called No Bros. They're super fun and punky and a lot of fun. Lil Yachty dropped a psychedelic album, which was, felt like a Tame Impala inspired thing. The Black Seminole, bopping song. It was great. It was good. He did a good job. Alton Gun? I don't know how to say. I don't know how to say. Comme ça. They're a funky, groovy, psychedelic band from Turkey, and by from Turkey, I mean they are like a Turkish band. Lemon Twigs put out a new album. I only recently got into it, so I didn't put it into my top 15, but I've been listening to it a lot more in the last few weeks, And Gorillaz with Cracker Island. The title track's great, and also that one track with Tame Impala's a lot of fun. I like Tame Impala. What can I say? Okay, now for the real thing. Number 15, Mac DeMarco with 5 Easy Hot Dogs / 1 Wayne G. This album and its rollout was strange. Mac booked a few small shows in the UK where he would play this instrumental album front to back. 5 Easy Hot Dogs, a collection of instrumental tracks he recorded on a road trip that he did, I guess, through Canada and the US. Every title is named after a city that he stayed in, I guess recorded said song in. It's very laid back. It's probably the most chill, stripped back music Mac has ever put out under his name or label. It's nice background music, but again, I couldn't tell you a standout track out of the bunch. But the reason why it has my number 15 spot is because shortly after he released 1 Wayne G, a somewhat companion piece to the former album. We're talking 199 songs. Close to 8 hours of half-recorded songs, demos, and goofs. The classic Garbage song makes an appearance on this.
Yeah. Just garbage, but fun to make. Yeah.
And that alone gets it this spot on this list. You see Mac's progression through 2019 into the pandemic and post-pandemic, and where his creativity kind of was throughout that whole journey. It's really neat to see or hear how Mac kind of evolves throughout this time and how he kind of becomes a little bit more subdued and a little more introspective with his songwriting. Def something you should check out if you have 8 hours. Number 14, we're talking Harrison. Birds, bees, the clouds, and the trees. I was in Europe. I was traveling a lot on planes and trains, and it was the perfect music just to put on to zone out and kind of fall asleep to. It's really jazzy, almost like lo-fi jazz in a way. Also includes some elements of future funk. This album really has a little bit of everything. It takes bedroom pop aesthetics with kind of jazzy elements and turns it up to 11. Standouts from this have to be Cowboys, Overhead, and Music Box. Some rapping that happens from featured artists that leaves a little to be desired, but the standout tracks really make up for it. Also, all these are just my opinion. It really doesn't matter. This list will probably change, and maybe I've missed a few albums. Who knows? Who cares, really? Number 13, Disclosure with Alchemy. I've always enjoyed Disclosure from a distance, but this was the first album that really sunk its teeth into me. This album's a lot of fun. It's very up-paced. I was doing a lot of running in the summer, and this was an easy go-to listen for all my runs. A lot of fun house elements. I mean, the first 3 tracks alone are just so strong. Number 12, Charlotte Cardin with 99 Nights. I threw this on one of my early morning commutes and was immediately brought into a world of soft voices and really infectious beats. It's sexy, indie, powerful, and fun. I mean, Puppy is such a groovy way to start this album. Fave song is probably Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, Will You Marry Me? This album has immaculate flow, and you can really lose yourself in all the introspective moments. Yeah, I'm just happy to find a fellow Canadian 94, doing their thing and making waves. Number 11, Mitski with The Land is Hospitable and So Are We. I've been trying to get into Mitski for a few years now, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't grasp onto it. I totally thought the songwriting was great, but it just wasn't for me, I guess, at the time. Flashback to 2022, I saw her at Oshiega, and her set totally grabbed me. I was so enthralled with her stage presence and how she commanded the crowd with just her on stage at times. But with this album in particular, right off the start, the vocals are haunting and they just make you listen. The opener, Bug Like an Angel, she's singing by herself, but then immediately has this choir come in and join her, and it's just so beautiful and moving. There's a lot of standard indie folk elements you would kind of expect in the genre, but they're elevated and so emotional. The song The Frost is probably my favorite song on the album. A lot of the songs on the B-side are like powerful country ballads in a way. Like, why do all these songs make me feel like I'm a cowboy, hanging up my cowboy hat for one last time, looking down at my fields and seeing the sunset to... Yeah, there's a lot of poignant lines on this thing that really cut deep, and yeah, they'll stick with me. Number 10, The Beaches with Blame My Ex. Toronto band, gotta rep the local bands. The Beaches have put out some pretty great music in the past, but I think this is definitely their best collection of songs in one go. Blame Brett, Everything is Boring, Me and Me. There's so many good, catchy, upbeat songs, and it's just fun. It was just a fun summertime listen. My only complaint about the whole thing is that it feels a little short. I wish there was a few extra songs. That's it. Not a bad complaint. Just saying. Number 9, Jungle with Volcano. Right from the first track, this album gets you grooving and brings you back to a time of just dancing and having fun. I heard complaints that the production really leans into the 70s super lo-fi kind of sound, but I mean, if you're willing to look past that, the song structures, most of the lyrics, and just the way everything is kind of composed and put together is really well done. But not only that, it's so infectious and just makes you want to dance throughout the entire thing. Personally, it was one of my favorite concerts this year. I went with my friend and his 6-year-old dad, who did not stop dancing the whole time. Yeah, definitely a great memory. You might know the song Back on 74. If you like that, just listen, you'll like the album, I think. I hope. I mean, number 8 is Yaji. Oh gosh, I don't know. I should really like look this up. Yeah. That album with a hammer. Upon first listen, the unique production and the silky smooth and refined vocals really got me hooked. I mean, from the first track, Submerge, you have that flute transition and then the beat comes in so hot and heavy, it's hypnotic. Done. Let's get it. Let's get it done, let's get it done, let's get it done, oh. Definitely one of my favorite songs on the album. I love the little Pikachu, I think it's like Pikachu sampling at the end, the Pika Pika Pika, or maybe it's just someone saying Pika. It's synth pop, it's techno, it's jazz, it's ambient. It's an incredible listen, so don't deprive yourself of a good time. Number 7, Unknown Mortal Orchestra with a V, or 5, I guess this is their 5th album. The instrumentation on this thing is incredible. There's tons of different psychedelic elements on here and different production tricks that just really engage the listener. The song The Garden grooves so hard. The bass across this whole thing is just so good. One of my favorite tracks is probably Weekend Run, because I like to run on the weekend. No, because it's a good song. Number 6 is Geese with 3D Country. Easily the most rock and roll album I listened to this year. There's such heavy riffs across this thing, and there's so much raw, unfiltered vocal strength. Again, another example of like perfect genre mixing to make something brand new. There's been so much of that this year. It's psychedelic, but then it gets garagey and really noisy and distorted, but then there's a whole country twang to it, and it's all over the place. You have banjo and prog sections, and but it somehow all works. I See Myself is definitely a highlight on this thing. Also, Tomorrow's Crusades really reminds me of kind of like a Radiohead vibe. It gets so loud, it's like classic rock turned up to 11, or dare I say 12. Also, it wasn't until my Spotify Wrapped that I kind of clued into how old, or how young rather, this band is. I had this whole vision in my head of some retired father, probably in their 50s, just belting and singing, and it wasn't that. So before you even look up what they look like, I would just like listen to the album, create a character in your head, and just enjoy it for what the music brings. Number 5, Olivia Rodrigo with Guts. Olivia really has matured as a songwriter and performer on this album. The production and songwriting just like make the whole thing flow so well. All American Bitch is a great tune. It's like pop punk princess vibes sort of thing, so watch out, Avril. Bad Idea is also such a great jam, and the harmonies on Lacey are so delicate and just like well put together, and they sound so pretty. The whole thing is so well produced, well thought out, well put together, and you know, it is very much a mainstream album, but don't get me wrong, it's definitely not a bad thing when it's done this well. It deserves that kind of praise. I think commercially, when we look back at 2023, this album will definitely be a standout. Number 4, we have Boy Genius with The Record. I love me some Phoebe, so I had to go check it out. I knew Boy Genius was a thing, but this album really kind of grabbed me in a way that maybe some of the other Boy Genius projects didn't in the past. I was in Italy, in Florence, strolling around the botanical garden listening to this thing, and the song Cool Without It came on, and like I literally was like tearing up, just like staring at a fountain. Yeah, there's some like really beautiful poetry across this whole thing. Phoebe, Julian, and Lucy really come together on this and make some beautiful music, and I really hope it's not the end of this project. Number 3, we have 100 gecs with 10,000 gecs. Like, what a trip. This album is all over the place. But again, I think if we go back to 2023 and we look at some of the music that made waves, this album might have influenced a few things. They really lean into that auto-tuned vocal sound. It's the most hyperpop thing I think I've ever listened to. But again, like so many other projects this year, it blends so many different elements. It has ska, it has punk, it has grunge and children's songs. I'm looking at you, Frog on the Floor. Hollywood Baby was one of my most played tracks this year, and for good reason. I think it hit like number 4 on the US alternative charts, which is crazy when you listen to this thing and you're like, what? If you haven't heard it, go into it with 0 expectations, have a good time, just try to just let it happen. Let it happen to your ears, and I don't know. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not for you, well, it's not for you. Number 2, we have Pink Pantheress with Heaven Knows. This album really was a grower. When I first listened to it, I was like, Pink Pantheress, these songs are longer than a minute. How am I ever going to enjoy this? It almost had like a 90s throwback blend, fun drum and bass sounds throughout this whole thing. The soft vocals blend so well with the production, and it's just a really fun album. Mosquito is probably my favorite song on this. I'm excited to see what's next. Before we hit number 1, I just want to shout out a few EPs. Magdalena Bay dropped Mini Mix Volume 3, and the song Top Dog is definitely a must check out. Dev Lemons also released an EP that I was really into this year. And of course, we can't forget New Jeans with their second EP. It's so good. It's good. It's so fun. But time for number 1. It's Blink-182 with One More Time. I'm a pop punk kid at heart. This is the album I wanted. This is the album I've been waiting for like 12 years. Sometimes it's the stuff that you really listened to in high school that kind of stays with you, and that, will rise above the rest. This is Blink-182's first album together with Tom DeLonge since 2011's Neighborhood, so it's been a while. They teased this album last year, literally teasing us with a track called Edging, and I really wasn't sure how the rest of the album was going to sound, as it was an okay song. It wasn't anything special, but I think the songwriting on this album really kind of shows that they together, the three of them, really can still make fun, infectious music. Now I get it. This album definitely isn't for everyone. When this album first dropped, I thought the production was way blown out of proportion. Like, the drums are so loud and like vocals were buried. I don't know what happened. I don't know whether I just got used to it after repeated listens or if they actually tweaked the production on Spotify. I really couldn't tell you. But I was listening to this thing like 2-3 times a day when it came out. And just because I genuinely wanted to. I was biking to work. Okay, I'll throw it on. I was going for a run, listening to it. And it just never got stale for me. You have songs that go way harder than you would ever anticipate from a Blink-182 album, like, Dance With Me goes so hard, and then there's also Terrified, which is so fun. Even that song Fell in Love with that stupid dinky piano intro grew on me after a while. And then the title track, One More Time, they released it with the video, and you have this flashback of all their other videos and things that are happening. It kind of brings the whole story of Blink-182 and where they are today. And for any fan, it was such a personal moment. And then they end it with Childhood, and yeah, it's very retrospective, very nostalgia. Yes, we're all getting old. It was a fun listen, and I'm definitely going to be listening to it for years to come. So yeah, there you go, grandkids. I hope you enjoyed this, and stop asking me questions. Okay, bye. Love you. Subscribe? I don't know. You don't even know what YouTube is. I don't even know where I am. Is this even on YouTube?